And when Mike White got released today, I got that notification on my phone, and I immediately thought, like, okay, like they're about to announce a signing or a trade. Because obviously, like, you're cutting him to bring somebody else in. I will admit, I did not expect the name to be Joe Flacco. I'm a Giants fan. I thought it was going to be Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, with Russ being the guy that I actually felt like it would be. I was actually a little floored when I saw it was Joe Flacco. So, like, the trade details don't even matter. It's like the 2026 fifth rounder, a 2026 sixth rounder, and Flacco. It's whatever. This is the Browns, like, sending Joe Flacco out because, like, Flacco's played already this year. They're bad. They want to see what they've got in Gabriel. They want to see what they've got probably in Shedeur. We can get to that in a little bit. And the whole goal is to evaluate all the young players and get your franchise quarterback in next year's NFL draft. And you can bet your sweet bippy that the Cleveland Browns brass was not thrilled last night with Chris Jones and the Chiefs defense allowing Trevor Lawrence to score on that play, since the Browns also have Jacksonville's first-round pick in next year's draft. Just from a fantasy perspective, with Joe Flacco now in Cincinnati, and there are reports that he's going to start this weekend, which is really funny because he started in week 3 against the Packers also with the Cleveland Browns, and they obviously won that game. So it's like, here's Flacco's second start against the Packers in 5 weeks or 6 weeks, and coming on 2 different teams. Like, absolutely insane. Like, this actually brings Jamar Chase and T. Higgins back to life a little bit in fantasy football. It really does. So if you've got those guys in fantasy, and like Chase had a good game in garbage time on Sunday with Jake Brown and getting him the ball when they were down by $1 million against the Lions, like, now you can at least, like, start these guys with some modicum of hope and confidence. And that matters to a lot of people, including me. So, like, it actually does help from a fantasy perspective. From a real-life perspective, the question now, because Jake Browning had no hope. And I actually, because Browning played pretty well a couple years ago, Jake Browning looked like the worst quarterback in the history of the league on Sunday's game against the Lions. And I had said after last Monday, the Bengals got embarrassed by the Broncos. I came on the show a week ago today and said, the Bengals should not trade for anybody because they have no hope. I think I actually underestimated how bad Jake Browning was. Like, you can't keep doing this. Like, they had to do something. Whether it was Rippon or Mike White or make a trade for someone, you absolutely had to do it. So now, here's Joe Flacco. And the question that we should all be asking ourselves now, sports fans, sports bettors, can Joe Flacco keep the Bengals in contention in time for Joe Burrow to potentially return in early to mid-December? Can he just keep them in contention? Because if you think the answer to that question is yes, and I'm going to invent a scenario here, and then we can talk about how likely it is to happen. Let's say that the Bengals are in contention and Burrow comes back with a couple games to go. And remember the exercise that we did yesterday on the show, right? Which was, if the Ravens don't make the playoffs, and they're going to be 1-5 after this week, who makes it in the AFC? Like, what's your AFC playoff picture if the Ravens miss? So let's say Burrow comes back for the final 3 games of the year, and they're still in contention. At Miami, home Arizona, home Browns. That's their final 3 games. And they sneak into the playoffs. You have Joe Burrow in the postseason. The Bengals' prices are all massive at BetMGM. Massive. You bet on this Tuesday. So if you think the Bengals are going to be in contention, and, you know, they're 2 touchdown dogs this week, If Joe Flacco, the lightning strikes twice and Flacco beats the Packers twice with 2 different teams, so be it. Let's assume the Packers win the game. Okay. 2-4. The 3 games for Cincinnati going into the bye week in week 10. Home Steelers, home Jets, home Bears. Can they win those games? Can they be 5-4? 4-5 going into the bye? Can Joe Flacco keep them afloat? It doesn't have to get them into first place in the division, but can he keep them within striking distance when Joe Burrow comes back? If you think that, there's definitely some opportunity in this market. Now, here's where I give my opinion. I don't know if we can fire it up if there's like copyrights or whatever, but this is where we would play Vince McMahon's WWE theme song. Because I believe that there's no chance that's what you got. Up against a machine so small. And then I think there's a bad word. Something politicians taking souls from us are puppets. Find their place in line. Something around your finger hardcore because it's just a matter of time. Because you've got no chance. No chance in hell. No chance. No chance. None. Zero. Zilch. Bubkiss. Nada. Forget about it. Incept yourself. Men in Black, red pen, red light thing. Not happening. Take the percent chance, multiply it by 1,000,000. 0. Ain't happening. No way. No how. No chance. On earth or hell. Okay, here's Joe Flacco. Oh, here would be my next question. Are they also acquiring, do they get TJ Watt? Is Patrick Surtain going to play corner? There's one former Raven came to the Bengals. Why doesn't Baltimore trade him Kyle Hamilton? He can play safety. The Giants might be out of it. Maybe they'll get Dexter Lawrence. What about the offensive line? You think the Bucs would trade them Tristan Wirfs? That possible? No? Maybe acquire an all-pro guard? That in the realm of possibility? Anyone think that's going to happen? The defense is still horrible. 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 The offensive line, terrible. 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 And Joe Flacco, I like him. The gargoyle. He is a statue back there. I don't think this is going to go well. Now, that doesn't mean that the Bengals aren't doing the right thing by making this move. You had to do something. You absolutely had to after what Browning's done the last 3 weeks. I think it would have been more prudent to get Russell Wilson, and I don't think Russ is very good, but Russ can at least have some mobility, and you're going to need it behind this offensive line. So I don't believe that Flacco can keep the Bengals in contention. I didn't think the Bengals were going to make the playoffs with Joe Burrow as the quarterback for 17 games. So certainly I'm not going to like it with Joe Flacco. But I wanted to just say this, right? Because I can be wrong. That if you're out there and you think that the Bengals, with all the injuries in Baltimore, and the Steelers may be a paper tiger, right, at 3-1 in first place. And I like the Steelers, but who knows how this is going to go the rest of the way. And maybe you think the Bengals could steal this division? That's probably their most likely path, right, is to win the division, not to get a wild card berth. Do you think that can happen? If so, now's the time to make these bets. Or at least wait until they lose by 1,000,000 on Sunday to the Packers. Because if you think it, the prices are huge. I don't think it's going to happen. I guess crazier things have happened. Like Joe Flacco winning comeback player of the year off his couch a couple years ago. Maybe he'll win it again. Who knows? Can he? Let's ask Rob Matty. As for the Cleveland Browns, I'm fascinated, legitimately, and this is not a betting thing. This is just, I'm interested as a sports fan. Is Shedeur Sanders going to be the backup to Dylan Gabriel this weekend? Or will they elevate Bailey Zappi to the 2 and Shedeur stays the emergency 3? If Shedeur is not the backup this weekend and he's the 3, I am going to take the L on my opinion that Shedeur will start games this year for Cleveland. I think that will be very, very telling.